So you just bought a nice history book that your friend recommended. You open it, read it, but you don't really understand it. That's okay, you think. The important thing is that I read it, and now I can say this to everyone. I know that this sounds like a stretch, but that is the relationship that most people have with history books and maybe even other fields like philosophy, sociology, and stuff like that. The point here is people don't know how to study history, and that is very sad. And I'm talking about uh, the guy who goes through university, who has a diploma, who can say I am a historian. But even this person, most of the times, he doesn't know how to relate with a book. He thinks that just buying it, sitting and reading, and then saying, okay, I finished, it's understanding the book, which is completely different. So in this video, I wanted to talk about this topic, which is very important, and give some major points, lessons that you can apply in any history book you will read. It doesn't matter if it's about the Middle Ages, antiquity, like the topic is irrelevant here. What I'm going to talk, it's the aspects about historiography, the aspects of theory of history, and how this can and will change absolutely everything you know about history. And again, this is not a stretch, it's a fact. But it's one aspect of history that most people just tend to look away. So this is what we will be tackling today. So most of the times when someone starts to study history seriously and he goes through college and all that, something made him or her take that step, in a sense that our passion for specific matters of the humanities, it begins somewhere. For me, it was something, for you it was something else. Maybe you had a nice teacher, maybe it was your grandpa that used to read you history books. It doesn't matter. So something will drive us to study history, and it's very important that we understand that motivation, what it does, how it affects the way we study history. Because sometimes if we don't understand that reason, we will let that same reason, that same motivation, that which strives us to, it makes us read more, that can destroy the way we study history. And I know it's very sad because you would think that, oh, I want to protect this feeling because it is exactly what brought me here. But history is not like sports. It's not a football field. You don't get to pick sides and root for one side and the other. You treat them like garbage. That is not how it works. If you are a serious historian, you will have to read everything. That is the first lesson that I will recommend you note it down, because most of my students, when they come to ask me, oh, should I read this? Should I read the book of that leftist author? Should I read the book of that very conservative author? Should I read Marx? And my answer is always the same: read everything. I don't care if you're going to agree with the author. Like, I don't care. You have to read everything so you don't become one of those people, one more of those people whose intellectual, I don't know, you can say intellectual files comes through 30-second videos, right? He saw a YouTube short, he saw some Instagram reels, and he thinks he knows history. And not only that, he trusts the opinion of a random guy, and that guy told him not to read certain books, and he won't. Never. He won't touch those books. And this is very sad, because this is not how a real intellectual will study. So if you want to have a serious intellectual life, be open to read everything, which don't mean right? Like it doesn't. I know it sounds like the same thing, but it isn't. It doesn't mean you have to agree with everything, but you have to know everything if you want to really understand a subject. So that is the first point here. You read everything. And that motivation that made you pick up the book for the first time, you can protect it, you should protect it, but just be careful. Don't let it destroy the way you study and understand the past, because as you know, ideology and vision and belief is something very strong. It is so strong that it can literally alter the way that I'm observing reality. So if this is a white cup and someone is really into this ideology that white doesn't exist, he will look at it, so no, this is red. And no, but look, it's white. No, it's red. So that is very common, special in politics, as you know. So be careful about that. And the other point is something very polemic, very disturbing for some. Most people think that if you are a good historian, you will be impartial. Oh, that historian, I like him, he's impartial. Well, no, not really. Because being impartial in history is impossible. It is impossible. Which doesn't mean you are going to be that crazy, bad historian who is super partial about his side. Which would go to the same field of what I just told you about not picking sides and reading everything. But the historian cannot be impartial. It is impossible if you are analyzing the true meaning of the word impartial. So pay attention here. Because that would imply that the historian, he can be absolutely above everything he studies, in a sense that he wouldn't have an opinion. He's like 100% impartial. But that is impossible. Because you see, this hypothetical historian we are talking about, he's a man like you and me. He was born in a certain country. He speaks certain language. He has a specific belief. He was brought up in an environment that maybe his household was very into conservative politics, and all that will shape the personality of that historian. And when he is writing history, when he is analyzing a document, that will echo through his work. And I know the good historian is able to hold that, but that doesn't mean he don't have an opinion, because he will. So my students, when I talk about this, they will ask, oh, but what do we do if being impartial is impossible? Well, I say this: keep this impartial historian in your mind all the time, like something you want to reach, but you can't, but you want to reach that impartial historian. Because when you are trying to be that impartial historian, you will become a better one. Because you won't be writing history in favor of this side or that side. You will be trying to write history exactly as a war. And I know that to some people this is Leopold von Ranke, which is, he is from the 19th century, that doesn't exist. I know, but you see, that is something very natural. A historian wants to tell a story, and he wants to tell that in the most close way of what he actually was years back. So if you have this, if you understand this, you're already ahead of most people, because when you pick up a book, it doesn't matter if it's a random book or a classic, you will understand that that was written in a certain time period by a certain historian, and that historian was born into certain country with a family, with a belief, with a political ideology very specifically. You see, now the book is not just a couple of pages. It has the DNA of someone who sat down to write it. You need to understand this, that the book is made by a human being and is talking about human beings. And that is another very important topic, because the best definition of history for me is the one that the French historian Marc Bloch gave, right? Right? Because history is the study of man and time. That's it. Because a historian doesn't study just the past. Past itself cannot be the object of study of history, because you need something else. You need the man. We study the lives of individuals in time. And when you understand that truly, you respect history. Because you're not writing or reading or talking about some random Joe about the past. You need to understand that that figure, I don't know, that's like George Washington or something like that. He was alive. He had a life. He had a wife. He had kids. He had a job. He had a huge amount of problems, responsibilities, and he would act in time, and that time, according to some beliefs, some costumes that it was common. So you need to understand all those pieces. History is like a, I don't know, like a tape, a big painting. It has a lot of elements, and you, as a historian or as a student of history, you need to form the whole. You need to see the whole picture, and the more details you can put in that painting, the better it will become. The better you will understand. You will understand the past better than anyone else. So what I'm telling you guys, it's very simple. It's some adjustments that you can make when you're picking up the next book, or maybe after you finish this video. Start to look history with all this in mind. Respect it. When you're reading about World War II, I know a lot of people like it. Oh, that battle was fantastic and something like that. No, but try to put yourself in that person's shoes. Like, imagine that. You see, if you do all this, I am 100% sure you will be studying in another level. So this is the topics that I wanted to talk about, and it's a simple video, but it's very necessary, I think. And if you guys have any like difficulties studying history or any other topics, leave your comments below. I'll be glad to help. And if you're new in the channel, subscribe, give your like, share the channel. And if you think my English sounds a little weird, it's because it's not my first language. You see, I have another channel. It's right here, the YouTube plate, but it's in Portuguese, and I talk exactly about the same thing that I will be talking here. So this is how much I love history. I made another channel just to talk about the same thing that I've been talking for years and years. But this is it. I hope you guys enjoy it, and I'll see you in the next video.